what are some of your must-dos before starting the system for the first time in a season? What are the mandatory things you like to check?
So the first thing that I check on a startup is the backflow preventer. In my area, they are typically attached right to the side of the house. So, and we winterize systems, but that doesn't mean it got winterized in time before it freezes. That doesn't mean that there's not something dripping that filled up that could have damaged the pipe. So, first thing is like we go up to that backflow device, check, like do a tactile feel on the back if you can't see the back, just to make sure there's no cracks in any of the ball valves, the piping. Look at the backflow preventer itself. A lot of them have plastic caps. If that's broken, then right away we got to repair that backflow preventer before even turning the water on. So that'd be the first part that I'd start. Then I would turn the water on after that, of course, right? After everything's all.
Is there anything that's like commonly, you might have just ran through them all, but is there something maybe you don't miss, but others miss that you want to tell them to look out for?
So the big one that I get is a lot of people will call in new homeowners, first time like starting their own irrigation. There are two, they call them test cock valves. Uh, and they're two valves with a small slot in them that you need to they're actually a miniature ball valve. You need to close them with a screwdriver. And that I get a lot of questions from homeowners asking about those, saying, hey, water's just spraying out when I turned it on. And it's like, oh, you need to take a screwdriver, go to these two slots and turn those closed. So that's somebody's going to hear that and it's definitely going to click and they're going to remember. And that's going to save them, $150 service call.
There you go. Now that's a pro tip there, Trem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I obviously have those on mine too. And they have confused me. Yeah. Not anymore, but
once you get it down, you're good. But yeah, the first time gets some people, or gets quite a few people. So don't be ashamed of that. If somebody sees that and it got them, it's definitely a common question. The other thing I would mention is when you're actually turning that shutoff valve back on, that you actually want to do it slowly, because you don't want to just flip your valve on and have water will be at like a velocity that could be damaging to elbows and tees, and then it could blow something apart and you'd have a problem. You just want to turn it real slow. So that's another pro tip there on that.
That is a good one. We just I just witnessed at a testing facility, like they had a gravity fed testing thing for a sprinkler head, and it just by the gravity of the water, it blew the head clean off.
And that's certainly something that can happen from once you get the water on and it stops flowing. You can take a look at your water meter if it's inside. Like all our water meters in Minnesota are inside our houses, because if we left them in a box in our lawn,
we would
freeze and have no water.
Yeah, because they have to be. Yeah.
I'm aware that other markets, down south, they certainly have outdoor meters and outdoor RPZs. A lot of times they turn them off and drain them though, but so they should certainly check for some of these freeze damages. Especially we had a freeze over this winter all the way down to Florida and Texas. So there is possible damage of backflow preventers. After we get the water on and everything's charged up and no valves are leaking, we typically go to the controller and run through every zone by the controller, make sure everything's working. As a professional, I a lot of times get the question like, for the $145 you're charging me for a startup, what do I get out of that? Well, we run everything through the controller. We walk through the system, double check all your adjustments, make adjustments as needed. We check those heads for leaking seals. A lot of times I like to step right next to the head, because if the seal is leaking and they have grass up around it, you're not going to see it. But when you step there, you're like, oh, there's a whole lot of water there. That seal's leaking. Any other things like that, really checking for that stuff. Like, obviously, if you have a leaking seal, a lot of people are in the thought that, hey, the seal's leaking, but it's spraying, so it's still spraying water. But that water that's leaking around the head is water you're paying for. Water is not getting less expensive, it's only getting more expensive. So do you really want to be paying for that, especially when the cost of a replacement, is going to be covered? If you left it there to leak for 2 years, you would have paid for the replacement in
Oof.
water. So that's a nice little fact
Plus, you'd have
for
a
you,
mess on
right?
your hands. Yeah. And so
And yeah,
we were talking off air too, like we were talking about like the most common things you're seeing out there. You were talking about the head by the corner of the driveway.
it's always the head by the corner of the driveway.
Yeah.
We'll just blame it on the teenage drivers, so
Right.
nobody has to get their wife mad by saying their wife always runs it over. It's definitely the teenagers.
There you go. And then, you kind of touched on it there, but it is super important. And, some people call it what they will, upselling, that sort of thing. But really, the way you position this is, you want to get them everything they need start a season. But you said something really interesting about, getting ahead of problems before they're even visible to the homeowner. You said you're able to
Yeah.
spot some things as you're doing startup that they may not see, they may not reveal themselves until later. Talk about a few of those things that you can have your pro do before things go really sideways.
Yeah, as a seasoned professional myself, I have good experience in looking at what an overall layout of a zone is and where it may have lapses in coverage. And of course, the springtime tends to be very rainy. So everything is still green in spring, but then come July, like there may be a dry spot. And a lot of times I, ask questions of the homeowners, which a good professional should be gathering that information. And I say, hey, do you happen to have? I noticed there's a lapse in coverage. Is there a dry spot here at any time during the summer season? A lot of times that just triggers the thought, and a person will say, actually, yeah, it dries out every summer there. So then, like, I'm not looking at it as an upsell, as me giving them a solution to that problem, right? So if they have a dry spot there every summer, and I can give them a price, whether it's $150, $250, or it could be $5. It doesn't really matter what the price is. I'm equating what the problem is, giving them a solution, and giving them a price for it. And if they agree that that's a good price to solve that problem that they have, like, I'm going to go ahead and complete the work and do it. I prefer to do all my startup work when I'm on site. Like, I don't really want to schedule to come back. I do understand that some problems may be bigger than the
Right.
time allotted in your day, and you got other customers to get to, but
Sure.
typically, a few heads that need to get replaced, nozzles, maybe a leak, something like that is small enough or short enough of time to get done during that startup period that we have scheduled for our customers.
There you go. Tram, you have any questions for Tom on startup?
Sure. So when you say that you run it from the controller, why is that important? Like,
yeah. Sometimes you may have damage to the wires, where there be a wiring issue where the zone won't come on. Sometimes you could have the issue of a controller itself not outputting power. And then other times you could have issues with like individual components of the valve, say a solenoid. There are some internal structures of the valve, like an exhaust port. I know that's over most people's head, but there may be some clogged internals of the valve where it could open manually from the outside, but it doesn't open when you activate the solenoid from the controller. So that'll lead you, like, when we're always running it from the controller automatically, we want to make sure everything from that controller is going to work from that controller.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, there are some other things you can do beyond that, as really how much time you're going to take if you're knowing you're coming back to a property. Now, I was just doing a class with Craig Borland. He's an IA educator, retired from Toro, and he was saying on a lot of the controllers, they have an inside card that has zones, and you can write times to actually measure the ohms of the zones. So you can write it down. And then if you're ohming every time you're visiting a house, you can see before components like the solenoids have failed or bad connections you can identify some of these problems that are starting to happen before they show up.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you said like upgrades too. So, I mean, talking about smart controllers, not that we know any good smart controller manufacturers or anything. I always tell technicians, like I said, you gather these facts. Like if I go up to the house and I ring the doorbell and there's a Ring doorbell or a SkyDrop doorbell or a smart doorbell, what are the chances that the homeowner likes to do home automation from their phone? Pretty good. So if they got a 1992 version controller, what if you just say, hey, would you like a controller that's not only smart, but you can operate it just right from an app from your phone? And that enough is, I would say at least 50% of the customers, when you tell them they can do it from their phone, they're buying it for the convenience of operating their controller through an app.
Yeah, that's really smart. I didn't, you're like, hey, they already have smart tech. This will be an easy upsell. Do you usually install flow meters with your controllers, or is that something that?
So when I upgrade systems, yes, as a new install, I always offer a flow meter. I always offer that flow meter as like an optional add-on to a new system install. We are looking at, and I was talking with Craig today about this. We are looking at, Rainbird has a $99 flow meter. That's a 1-inch flow meter. And there's a lot of other good competition in that $100 to $200 range where, 10 years ago, flow meters were in that $600 range. And now that they're no longer so expensive in cost and that cost has come down, like now it's easier to justify the return on investment for $100 than it is $600.
Right. That's a lot of water, $600.
And if you're looking at what a broken head would cost, I always break it down to the numbers, because if we're looking for a return on investment, which is essentially what, like, I'm not ripping people off. I'm giving them a return on their investment, how long it's going to take to pay off this investment. Something like a flow meter, if I'm saying your return on a $100 flow meter is, if you had a broken head that was just leaking water for 2 weeks, like just snapped off, that zone's running 30 minutes a day, and I can say you would have spent $150 over 2 weeks of that broken head. Do you want to spend $99 to prevent it? And that's going to give you an alert. As a pro, you're going to see that alert in your pro account and be like, "Oh, Mrs. Johnson has a flow alert, an overflow on zone 3. I need to talk to Miss Johnson anyways. We have a mid-season check coming up, and you call her and I got that zone off. The rest of the system's running. I'm gonna show up there on Thursday this week, and now you look like a hero to Mrs. Johnson because her grass doesn't die, right? Essentially, that's what flow meters allow us to do, is before expensive plant material dies, because to replace plant material really becomes a huge cost factor.
Sure.
It's giving us, I like to say, is digital eyes on site without having a technician drive out to every site all the time. It's just monitoring for you and letting you know, hey, something's wrong. You really want to drive out to site right now when something's wrong. And you're like, oh, of course. Like, so it used to be bigger projects, commercial projects that would make sense. You're installing, $500,000 of plant material and want to make sure all the drip is running. You're installing a flow meter because you don't need to go back and reinstall $100,000 of plants.
Right.
Well, now if the cost factor is a couple $100, now $1,000 of plants could be protected by a couple $100. So, the payoff, the payoff and that return on investment is a much smaller period of time and a smaller amount to protect. And I always say, don't bother installing a flow meter if you're not going to install a master valve, because they go right in the same hole. Only dig one hole, put it in all at the same time, because what is the cost of another $20 valve to throw right in where that flow meter is going? So now we got monitoring and a way to remotely shut off the system.